All right, good morning. We are still talking about synthetic division, and I'm going to show you an additional way that you can use synthetic division. So far, just as a quick recap, synthetic division, you can use it to evaluate, divide, like our long division. Okay, divide, factor is the one we looked at yesterday. And today, we're going to talk about how to use synthetic division to find zeros. Okay, now remember, zeros, x-intercepts, roots, solutions, okay, those are all the same thing. When we talk about finding zeros, then we're talking about finding solutions to this equation. Okay, so 34 and 35, we are told that f of negative 2 equals 0. Okay, so what that means is this negative 2 is one of my zeros. It is one of my solutions. Okay, so I'm given one solution. Now, this equation is a cubic. Okay, remember highest degree. And whatever your highest degree is, that's how many solutions you're looking for. Okay, or that's how many zeros we're going to be looking for. Okay, so we already have one of them, negative 2. All right, so that one was for free. You didn't have to work for that one. Okay, but we're going to use that negative 2 and put it in our corner, okay, and do synthetic division. So go through your cubic. You're looking for your coefficients. So we would have a 1x cubed, a 2x squared, a negative 9x, and negative 18. Okay, so we're going to go through our process, bring down that first digit. It's going to be a 1. Okay, now we do our multiply and our add. So multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Okay, so what we got was our remainder is 0. Okay, and that's what we should get because back up here, f of negative 2 is 0. So it is one of our solutions, which means it divides evenly into that polynomial. Okay, so we started with a cubic. Okay, we divided. That knocks you down one level. So then what you're given now, these are coefficients for your quadratic. Okay, so this says 1x squared minus 9 equals 0. Okay, let me back up just a second. Okay, because we have the 1, so that's your 1x squared. You have the 0, so that would mean plus 0x, and then negative 9 would be minus 9. Okay, so since that's a 0x for that linear term, you can just skip it. So we would have x squared minus 9. And then since we're solving it, we're looking for the zeros, it's going to be equal to 0. Okay, you now have a quadratic. So you have some options. Yesterday when we had quadratics that we wanted to finish factoring, we used our product sum table. So we can go product sum table if you want. It will work. Your product is going to be negative 9. Your sum is 0. So that's a 3 and a negative 3. So this would factor to x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay, now to solve it, okay, so we factored. Now we're going to solve. So to solve this, remember you put your factors equal to 0, and then you solve. The shortcut is just change the signs. Okay, so x would be a negative 3 would be this solution. X is positive 3 would be that solution. All right, so what are the zeros? That was our ultimate goal. Find the zeros. All right, well, negative 2 was given to us. Then we found negative 3 and positive 3. Okay, now look, you have 3 solutions, okay, which makes sense. We had a cubic, So an x cubed, that means you are looking for 3 solutions. Okay, now you could have, when we got to this x squared minus 9, okay, remember you have multiple ways in which you can solve quadratics. Okay, so we factored. Okay, we could have done quadratic formula. Another one that would have been very easy to use would be solving with square roots. So if I had moved this 9 to the right side, I would have gotten x squared equals 9, square root both sides, square root, then x would equal plus and minus 3. So we could have gotten our positive and negative 3 by using square roots instead of factoring. Okay, so it doesn't matter to me. You have a quadratic, you have like 4 different methods in which you can solve it. You pick. Okay, whatever's going to be the easiest or whichever one you like the best, then you can solve it any way you want to. Okay, so let's go to 35. Same directions. Find the zeros, and our first 0 we are given is going to be negative 2. So put negative 2 in your box. Use your coefficients. Okay, go through that same process. We're going to bring the 1 all the way down. We're going to multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply. Again, it was a 0, so that means it's going to divide evenly into that cubic, so you should always get a remainder of 0. Okay, we started with a cubic. We started with an x cubed. You have now divided, and you have taken it down 1 degree. So this represents our coefficients for a quadratic. So this says x squared plus 6x minus 7, and then equals 0 because we're going to solve it. Okay, we're finding the zeros, we're going to solve it. This is a trinomial. I would factor. This one's going to factor easy. So product sum table, negative 7 for your product, 6 for your sum, 7 and negative 1 will be the right combination. So this factors x plus 7, x minus 1, and then I can solve it. So this will be negative 7. This one will be positive 1. Okay, so what are my zeros? My zeros are the negative 2 that I started with, and then I found negative 7 and positive 1. And there's your 3 solutions. Okay, now this one, 36, goes back to what we did yesterday. Okay, this one says factor completely. Again, that's one of those options of things that we can use synthetic division for. All right, so we are given that x plus 3 is a factor. So if x plus 3 is a factor, set it equal to 0, and then solve it, and you would get x would be a negative 3. Okay, so negative 3 goes in your box. You're using your coefficients. So it's going to be a 1, 3, negative 3, negative 9. Okay, again, we are told that this is a factor. So when we finish our synthetic division, we should get 0 at the end. And we do. Again, we started with a cubic. Okay, started with a cubic. We divided by a factor. That's going to take this down to a quadratic. All right, this is similar to one we did just a minute ago. So these are coefficients for a quadratic. So x squared plus 0x minus 3 equals 0. We are solving this. Again, that linear term, there's not one. I can just drop that out. And x squared minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so solving this, if we want, we can do a product sum table. So product is going to be negative 3. Sum is going to be 0. Well, to multiply to get a negative 3, you've only got 2 options. You have 3 times negative 1 or negative 3 times positive 1. And you can pretty quickly see neither one of those is going to be the right combination. Okay, so this one does not factor. I got to use another method to solve it. Okay, you could go quadratic formula. I wouldn't. I would just go square roots because I can quickly move my 3 to the other side. So I get x squared equals 3. Okay, so now I'm going to square root. So square root, and x equals plus or minus root 3. Okay, plus or minus root 3. You know what? I went a little far on this one because this just says factor completely. I went on to solve, so I was kind of operating under the previous set of instructions. So we need to back up just a little bit. Factor completely. So I don't need to solve it. I can just get rid of that part. Okay, this is what I have left to factor. I try my product sum table. It doesn't work. Okay, so that means this x squared minus 3 is not factorable. So that is as far as it will go. So for this equation, factoring completely is the x plus 3 that we were given to get us started as a factor, and then this x squared minus 3. Okay, so since that won't factor anymore, we tried it in our product sum table. That is the factored version of that original cubic. Okay, 37. I think we can get this one in before my time runs out. All right, so this time we're given 2 factors. So that means 3 is going to go in our box, and then we're going to follow it up with negative 3. Okay, since this one is a Quartic, it's going to take me more than just the couple of minutes I have left. So I'm going to stop here. Then there'll be a second part to this video that will finish up